find your seats as we sing one more step.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Thank you.
I'm learning a new instrument. Good morning. We're called today to be together, and I'm happy to be here with you. I'm Roz Hawkins, a 70-year-old black woman of mixed race, according to the family legacy and DNA, and a current active member of this community. Mary Erickson and I are excited to have you as a part of our service today. Last year, Mary brought the novel James to my attention. We agreed to meet in a coffee shop and discuss how the book had raised her awareness of how people of color, specifically blacks, perspective of life was so different. While our conversation was wide-ranging and took us in exploration much deeper than the text, we did find a fundamental theme. That is what would cause an author to feel he needed to respond to a book originally published in 1884 in 2024, 140 years later. In the total scheme of things, it comes down to identity. Could Mark Twain adequately tell the story of a slave? What narrative did Percival Everett choose to reassess? Could he adequately portray the slave's mindset and capture the dilemma of a young white boy? Whose version of these characters' identity is most accurate? In our ongoing discussions, we explored our own backgrounds and how we saw each other and what perceptions we had lived through and the impact on our own lives. We discussed flashpoints that formed some of our perspectives and how cultural elements have played a role in shaping our self-identity. All of that and more could be topics that we could explore, but here we want to attempt to focus on how those perceptions, internal and external, guide us. In our presentation today, we explore this through the aforementioned characters and our personal experience. We invite you to listen with a questioning mind. How do you identify? What has influenced your identity? And how have other perceptions impacted how you see yourself or evaluate others? Let us reflect together. And I give you, from our great hymnal, this invitation. Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirits. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power and let its vision change your heart. Let it be so.
Please rise as you are willing and able and join in 1074, Turn the World Around. You ready to dance? We come from the fire, living in the fire.
Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around.
We come from the mountain, living on the mountain.
Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Whoa, so is life. Oh, so is life. Whoa, so is life. Oh, so is life. Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? See, we one another clearly. Do we know who we are?
Do you know who I am? Do you know who we are? See, we one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? See, we one another clearly. Do we know who we are?
Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life.
Water make the river, river wash the mountain. Fire make the spirit
Turn the world around.
Heart is of the river, body is the mountain, spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the spirit, truly of the spirit, only can the spirit turn the world around.
Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Whoa, so is life. Oh, so is life. Whoa, so is life. Oh, so is life.
Thank you.
Now, if you will say our chalice lighting words with me. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire that calls us to work for justice.
Welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation, to everyone in the sanctuary and to everyone live streaming online. I'm Melanie Clunan-Schulte, Worship Associate, and this is a place of acceptance and encouragement. Whether you are a regular attendee, an old friend who's back after a long absence, or a new friend visiting us for the first or second time. If you are new to us, there is always a welcome circle after the service. It's going to form over by those windows. Please feel free to grab some refreshments first at the back of the sanctuary. And if you need a good listener after the service, our lay pastoral care team is always available. In the sanctuary, that will be Adrienne O'Donnell, and she's standing up in the back so you can recognize her. And she'll be up here in the front if you need her. And then online, Carl Anderson will be available. He'll facilitate the Zoom meet and greet for those online. And that team is also available during the week, by the way. You can reach them. It's up there, pastoralcare@vuu.org. The Caring Neighbors team is also available. If you need assistance after a surgery or a major life change, help with meals, rides, other small tasks, please feel free to contact them. And again, the information is up there on the slide. And if you or a little one need a timeout during the service, feel free to make use of the comfort room that's to your right. There's a diaper changing table in there, and the service is still streamed so that you can catch what's going on. Our settled minister, Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan, is out of the pulpit today. And in the pulpit for this lay-led service, two of our esteemed members. It was about 7 months ago that Mary Erickson approached me about a service inspired by the Percival Everett book, James. And this was just shortly after I first heard about the book from our interim faith formation director at the time, Sarah Sauter. Sounded to me like I needed to check this book out. And indeed, this reimagining of Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, told from the perspective of the slave Jim, has won numerous awards, including the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction and the National Book Award for Fiction. And it provides multiple topics potentially for discussion, including the legacy of slavery and race relations, the personas we show the world versus who we really are, the role of happenstance in our lives, and what we owe to each other, particularly if helping others puts our own safety at risk. But in naming the book James, what the narrator calls himself but is not referred to by others, the author, Percival Everett, prioritizes the theme of identity, and that is what Roz and Mary will explore with us today. In true UU fashion, their goal is to provoke questions more than provide answers. And aren't we lucky to be along for this adventure?
Can the children please come forward for our time for all ages? Melanie is going to hold the book up as I read the story. My grandson is making faces at me, so. This is called Little Brown Girl, You Belong. But we all belong. And here's a story that takes us to see how others belong. Halito, hello. My name is Nita. I'm a little brown girl. My family is Black American, Choctaw, and Eastern European. I'm learning about myself and my heritage every day. My mom tells me that I'm a pretty brown girl who, along with many other girls, make the world a better place. I am important and very loved. I'm learning that all around the world we belong. I want to show you other little brown girls like me. Come with me, let's take a trip around the world and learn about little brown girls. Let's start at my home in Alabama. This is my friend, her name is Bree. She is the color of the strong red oak bark which grows in our favorite park. Bree is Black American and has family roots all around the African continent. She lives here in Alabama with her mom, her dad, her sister, and her grandma. They remind her every day that she brings magic into the world, that she belongs, and that she is deeply loved. This is my friend, Izzy. They are indigenous to Turtle Island, and their ancestry is in the Tulalip and Muckleshoot nations. That's a lot for my mouth to say. They are the color of Alki Beach sand, which is near their home. They are two-spirit, which means that the spirit they carry in their body has both feminine and masculine identity. They are very special and loved by their family, which includes their mom and dad, their aunties and uncles, their community. And they are a little brown two-spirit person, and they belong here. I want to introduce you to Alani. Alani is Melanesian from the Vanuatu Islands. She is a rich red-brown color like the long brown trunks of the palm and coconut trees in her forest. Alani comes from a long line of brown people who sailed around the oceans before time began. She is proud of her skin and her hair. She lives with her older sister, who tells her every day that she is smart, beautiful, and that she is loved. Alani knows she belongs in the world. Meet Divya. She is from India. Her two grandmothers and her mom take care of her. She also has a brother named Sal. Divya is the color of her favorite candy, fruit shell, tamarind. Much like the tamarind tree is used in many different practices in her culture, she is learning what other things her culture has given to the world, like dances. Her dada, which is what she calls her grandmother, tells her that she belongs in everything she does. Come with me to Europe, where my friend Toby lives. Toby's mom is Nigerian and her dad is German. She is the color of dried mango seed, which is used to make one of her favorite foods, mango seed soup. Ooh. Toby has three parents, her mom, her Roro, which is her stepdad, and her daddy. They often take Toby to the library where she meets up with her friends. Toby loves to read. They remind her that no matter what, she is brilliant and belongs, that she is always enough. I'd like to take you to one more place. This is Brazil. Meet Josie. Her birth parents were Afro-Brazilian and Kayapo. This makes Josie Afro-Indigenous. Josie is the color of terra roxa. Terra roxa is a beautiful, rich dirt found in Brazil that helps the trees of her land grow big and strong. Josie loves learning about the earth and how to support growing plants. Josie lives with her two moms and her brother, who is also adopted. Josie wants to grow up and help plants survive. Her moms remind her every day that she can do anything. She is loved. Thanks for coming with me to meet my friends, Bree, Isi, Aloni, Divya, Toby, and Josie. We may be from different places and we may have different families, yet we all belong here in the world. We are loved. You are loved. We are all here in the world. We are all loved, talented, creative, and special. Most importantly, we are all perfect just the way we are. And we hope that you know that you are perfect too. Thank you for sharing. We're going to be talking about what identity means and you and how special you are just the way you are. Thanks for listening.
Please rise and join us in Soon the Day Will Arrive. We'll be singing Wait and See, Wait and See. As we move into this time of reflection and centering, we'd like to invite you to move a stone in the sand, to light a candle, or place a drop of water in the fountain. Please remain seated and join us in singing our centering song, Hush, which is number 1040 in the Teal hymn book.
Good morning. I first have to confess that I'm nervous as heck, so just cope with it. Okay, thank you. And I see your support, so thank you. Thank you. The inspiration for both this service and my collaboration with Roz Hawkins was James, the 2024 novel by Percival Everett, written from the perspective of Jim, an enslaved man who escaped on a raft on the Mississippi River with Huckleberry Finn in Mark Twain's novel, written 140 years before in 1884. Percival Everett begins his novel with an episode in which James teaches children how to talk and act when around white people. This practice, sometimes called code switching, was the initial notion Roz and I discussed at our first meeting over coffee last January. In a recent interview, Everett describes James as teaching children to speak and behave consistent with white people's expectations by explaining that if blacks did not comply with the expectations of whites, they were perceived as threatening. Sometimes, he notes, that's still true today, especially when confronted by police. I identify with the notion of code switching in several areas of my life. Perhaps this idea was first planted by my mother's reporting that her father-in-law, my grandfather, hi Grandpa, admonished her after her wedding not to fly too high. My mother had been raised on a farm, but subsequently moved to Chicago, where she became a professional, successfully navigating the big city. Following her father-in-law's admonition and the expectations of the time, she chose to give up part of her identity when she married. This was a sacrifice, a choice that she felt compelled to make, but which left her feeling somewhat short of what she might have been. Shortly after moving to Arizona, I returned to Illinois for a visit and took my 2 teenage nephews to dinner. One remarked on my Arizona accent. I realized I was not code switching to my childhood style of speech, as I did when I visited with them at their family farm, but was speaking more like the professor I had become. I wasn't saying ain't or pert near. Anybody know what pert near means? Okay, pretty nearly is a translation. It can even be perner. Okay. But dropping endings like eaten or going for a walk. I have since realized that sometimes even when teaching, I switch to words like ain't if I feel myself making some of my students anxious. In Everett's book, James occasionally speaks as he would among friends and forgets to speak as whites expect, which puzzles Huck. So Jim code switches to the way of speaking with which Huck is familiar. As Roz and I continued our collaboration, I began listening to Ron Chernow's 2025 biography of Mark Twain. Both Roz and I grew up near the Mississippi River. I lived in northwest Illinois, Roz in St. Louis. Roz's home was 100 miles south of Hannibal, Missouri, where Mark Twain grew up. I grew up 150 miles northeast of Hannibal. Like Twain, I feel pulled to my own life on the Mississippi. Nearly every year in my childhood, our family drove to visit my mother's childhood neighbors, still living on farms within a team of horses' drive to Hannibal, where her father sold apples. When my younger brother taught in a tiny town just north of the confluence of the Illinois, Missouri, and Mississippi rivers, his commute to school included crossing a river by ferry. Our family sometimes crossed the Mississippi by ferry to my mother's friends near Hannibal. One summer we spent a few days in New Boston, Illinois, just watching towboats pushing rafts of barges filled with grain down the Mississippi. As our collaboration continued, Roz wondered what motivated Percival Everett to write James. In an interview, Everett explained that working with stories is internal, sedentary, something I do to explain to myself my place in the world. This explanation resonated with me, as I have recently had my gravestone back in Illinois engraved with the words, "She loved her work." I am realizing more and more how much my identity is centered on work, as I think back to that childhood on the farm. There was no salary, just the income from the sale of crops or livestock in an always fluctuating market. Income diminished if rain fell on cut hay before it was baled, or if hail devastated a cornfield that had not been picked. There were always chores to do: milking cows, collecting eggs, feeding cattle and hogs, including Saturdays and Sundays. My father took a nap after our noonday dinner. We called the noonday that dinner, and at night it was supper. Then put on his cap or his straw hat and went outside whistling happily back to work. By the time I was in elementary school, I got started with some work of my own. That is the work of teaching. In elementary school, my teachers would direct me to classmates with probably undiagnosed learning disabilities to help them with the lessons of the day. In high school, my English teacher sent me home with my classmates' Shakespeare notebooks to grade and mark on the sly. I've loved teaching ever since. Perhaps some of you have been in one of my fun events, like my afternoon session on art historical inquiry. Now there's a subject. Or my day-long sessions on developing an aesthetic perspective on living at Roberta Baker's house. I was thrilled when Jerry Waters, thank you, Jerry, facilitated my having the opportunity to repeat that class at the Pine Library last spring. Right now, I'm hatching an idea for a self-published book on finding the aesthetic in the everyday for folks in senior living communities, or maybe, with Melissa Bush's help, also for people on hospice. As our service grew closer, Roz chose to focus particular attention on James's relationship to Huck, as well as his relationship to others as they traveled in the antebellum South. I identified with Huck as a kid not fitting into the social structure of the town. On the farm, no child my age lived within walking distance, and it was not our practice to visit neighbors or townsfolk. My siblings and I invented games and played together. In the summer, I loved taking blankets to sleep in the front yard, looking up at the vastness of the starry sky. And I have a getaway cabin in Pine, a dark sky town in the middle of the Tonto National Forest. Every night, now I'm going to see, you look carefully, you can see the Big Dipper up there. Do you see that? I took that picture, and I know the lighting is terrible, but I think you can see the Big Dipper up there. Okay, every night before I go to bed, this is the truth, I step out on the back porch and recognize myself as an impossibly insignificant speck in the multitude of the galaxies around me. Huck was determined to find freedom and independence on the raft. I'm told that when I was a child, I could be stubbornly determined, declaring, "Going to anyway." Fortunately for Huck, not long after starting down the Mississippi, he crossed paths with Jim, whose benevolence filled a gap left by Huck's own cruel father. I, too, found mentors and collaborators throughout my education and academic career. Every year since I moved to Arizona, which was in 1990, like Huck, I made my own adventure, driving cross-country by myself to the Midwest or to Pennsylvania, where I used to teach. I haven't done it this year yet, but those back roads are calling. Huck set a high standard of independent morality in Twain's novel. He prays to God about what he should do when his ingrained cultural norms dictate he write to Jim's owner to tell her where she can find Jim. He wrote the letter, and at first felt good, then remembered all Jim had done for him on the raft. Finally, he took up the letter. In his words, I was a-tremblin', because I had to decide forever betwixt two things, and I knowed it. I studied a minute, sort of holding my breath, and then says to myself, all right then, I'll go to hell, and tore up the letter. He decided he would take up wickedness again and go to work and steal Jim out of slavery again. I hope I have learned to think clearly within my judgment, without my judgment being swayed when cultural expectations beckon in another direction. Roz and I have very different ways of organizing ideas and scheduling time. I pretty much work alone with no distractions, hour after hour, while Roz juggles an impossible number of obligations, interruptions, and priorities with a cool head. Even when we're together, she managed to keep me from freaking out. We complement each other's efforts, perhaps in a way similar to Percival Everett's complementarity with Mark Twain. Everett explained that his book, James, was a conversation with Mark Twain, saying it was Twain's business to tell the story of the white youth, and it was my business to tell the story of the black man. And I flatter myself that we work together in some way to do that. Working together on this service, Roz and I worked out whose business it is to tell which story. Thank you.
When Mary and I met, I was excited to get to know one of our legacy members better. I actually knew her brother Roy better, having attended many discussions in our congregation with him. The opportunity to more personally interact with Mary, especially as it related to the concept of perceptions of race, was uncomfortably inviting. However, as we discussed the tenets of James, how we individually reacted to it became a significant part of our narratives. We began to understand that our lived experiences are key to how we see ourselves, the world around us, and our reactions to this reading. While we were originally going to present a more academic perspective, we felt it more compelling to give a more personal accounting. Mary quoted Percival Everett's explanation for a conversation with Mark Twain, indicating that he was telling the black man's story. In a similar vein, my reaction to James is from my perspective as a minority of mixed race who is a descendant of slaves. In some ways, it felt personal. The example that Mary shared of code switching in James was ever present in my youth. My mother always was insistent that we spoke proper English. Slang was not allowed in our home, and each word had to be properly enunciated. In the alternative, in order not to be teased at school for talking white, I found ways to use street vernacular around friends. In my working life, there were times that my extended vocabulary and articulate enunciation resulted in my being branded as too smart. So I tried to simplify my word choices to make coworkers more comfortable. In James, Jim explains, quote, "White folks expect us to sound a certain way. It can only help if we don't disappoint them. The only ones who suffer when they are made to feel inferior is us." As Mary stated, code switching can happen for a number of reasons, but the results for people of color, at times, has been fatal. In an interview, Mr. Everett was asked how race impacted his writing, to which he replied, "Do I think about it? No. But sure, it's there. Sadness? Sure. Why not? Let's have it be sadness. Reality? Yeah. Do I really care? No. I can't change the cultural tsunami that happened 400 years ago, and the waters are still waiting to recede, unquote. However, he does address it in the book in a number of ways through his characters. Unlike the author, it caused me to think deeply about how race has impacted my life. I began by describing myself as a person of mixed race. I'm fairly certain that that is not how most people would describe me. But let's take a look at my father's birth certificate. Now, on my father's birth certificate, there's he was born in 1932 in Yalobusha County, Mississippi, and given the name Charles Herbert Hawkins. His mother's name was Ollie Mae Duke. His father, Leslie Hawkins, who was said to be white, denied that he was the father. So note that on the birth certificate, the area that the father's information should be is covered. The document indicates that he is not a legitimate child, and under color, it is listed as yes. Very strange for a birth certificate, I thought. Leslie Hawkins accepted no responsibility, and my grandmother had no voice. My father never met him. As a child, my father stated that he was told he could pass. In other words, he could identify as white, but he never considered it. During his 37.5 years working at McDonnell Douglas Aircraft Corporation, he worked on space shuttles, which resulted in a temporary transfer to Florida. During that time, he applied for a Florida license, but he failed the written test by 2 questions. The tester told him he was sure that he knew the answers and asked him to answer orally, which he did. When he received his license, his race was listed as white. My father would recount this story with a sense of humor, an assumption made by the DMV staff that if they had asked, he would have denied. In James, Jim encounters a character called Norman. Norman reveals that he is actually colored, also a runaway slave, but is able to present himself as white. He is happy to be able to tell Jim his secret because it is exhausting to pass for white. While our outward appearance may give one impression, our DNA can tell a different one. So let's look at my DNA and that of my father. Now, this comes from 2 different sources. My DNA was analyzed by Ancestry, and my sister and my father's was done by 123. 23andMe, thank you. Thank you, Everett. I have heroes in the audience. And so if you'll note my father's DNA under CH, he's over 50% and I'm over 30% European. My father made a choice of identity. I accept the identity that people see. Norman had a conversation with another slave who questioned his motives for choosing his identity that went like this. "Are you really a slave?" she asked. "I am." "And you're colored?" she said. Norman nodded. "Who can tell?" "Nobody," Norman said. "Then why do you stay colored?" "Because of my mother, because of my wife, because I don't want to be white. I don't want to be one of them." My father would concur. Let me share some pictures of my family. There's my father at the tender age of 10. He and my mother together shortly after they were married in 1950. And then a picture of my father and I. Next slide, please. In 2022, we celebrated Dad's 90th birthday. It is my youngest sister who is directly behind my father, who shares his skin tone and his and the texture of his hair. And the two guys on the far right are fraternal twins, one with my mother's skin tone and the other with my father's. We were a rainbow family, and while my parents made no favoritism due to the shade of our skin or texture of our hair, others let us know it made a difference in how we were perceived. Huck Finn is set at the time of the Civil War when the very concept of slavery was being challenged. During this period, it was still illegal for slaves to learn to read and write, but Jim had secretly taught himself to do both. In James, the incident that caused him to run away from his master's home was because a fellow slave had been discovered with a pencil and openly beaten. In one of those few overlaps between the two books, Jim's escape and Huck's taking off from his abusive father coincide, which begins their fugitive adventure together. Everett spends a fair amount of time having Jim reflect on how important those skills of reading and writing were and how dangerous they would be if exposed. While former slaves could learn to read and write after the Civil War, the era of Jim Crow made it difficult. It took Brown versus Board of Education to equalize the educational opportunities for blacks with their white counterparts. On this slide, the picture of Brown versus Board of Education of plaintiffs shows Oliver Brown, who is second from the left, and right in front of him his daughter Linda, who happened to be cousins of one of my best friends who lives in Topeka. That's me on the far left just before I started kindergarten in 1959. I felt I could have been that little girl being escorted to integrate a grade school in Arkansas. In the middle is the depiction of Ruby Bridges that was on the cover of Look magazine in the 60s, a copy of a Norman Rockwell painting. I feel a debt of gratitude for Jim for defying the law to learn. I am grateful to the families, like the Browns, who fought to go to school in their own neighborhood. I'm thankful to my parents who insisted that I speak the King's English. It is definitely a part of my identity. In Huck Finn, Jim is portrayed as a strong but typical slave with many superstitions and a keen imagination. Ultimately, in Mark Twain's version, it is Huck and Tom Sawyer who are responsible for Jim's freedom. However, Percival Everett describes Jim and James as one who pretends to be an illiterate slave, but is actually a self-educated tactical strategist who takes control of his own life. His ultimate act after gaining freedom and that of his family is to change his name from Jim to James. He claims his own identity, no longer bound to the whims of his enslavers. My father was given the last name of his biological father, who he never knew, but he never changed it. However, he did not let it define him. Instead, he claimed his mother's heritage of independence and hard work. He learned a trade, successfully raised an intact family, and honored his role as a black man. In preparing for this service, Mary and I started in one place and landed in another. Much like Huck and Jim, we came together by happenstance, then found commonality to take the journey to develop this service. Along the way, we discovered our strengths and weaknesses in relating to events as we navigated what was relevant to each of us and how we could best share it with others. Mary's reflection is much different than mine. Our relationship grew in mutual purpose, weathering the impediments along the way. I am grateful for the process and for the lessons learned. We couldn't come from more different backgrounds, yet as a part of the VUU family, there was always a sense of shared purpose. As we came to understand the quirks of each other's personality that reveal sources of how we identify, we used those revelations to strengthen our bond. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Mary, for this experience, for VUU, and for each of you. Thank you for hearing our stories, and may your identities be defined by you. May it be so.
It's now time for the ushers to come forward to collect the offering. Your generosity funds all of our programs, and you can text your contribution or add some bills of right or change of heart to the collection plate as it comes around.
Please remain seated. We're going to sing From You I Receive. We're going to sing it one time through together, and then we're going to let Linda and Paul take it. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Let them be as flowers, always watered, fed, guarded, admired, but harnessed to a pot of dirt. I'd rather be a tall, ugly weed, clinging on cliffs like an eagle, wind wavering above high, jagged rocks, to have broken through the surface of stone, to live, to feel exposed to the madness of the vast, eternal sky, to be swayed by the breezes of an ancient sea, carrying my soul, my seed, beyond the mountains of time or into the abyss of the bizarre. I'd rather be unseen, and if then shunned by everyone, than to be a pleasant-smelling flower, growing in clusters in the fertile valley, where they're praised, handled, and plucked by greedy human hands. I'd rather smell of musty green stench than of sweet, fragrant lilac. If I could stand alone, strong and free, I'd rather be a tall, ugly weed.
Please rise and join us in our closing hymn, number 1051, We Are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Please say these words with me as we extinguish the chalice. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Go in peace.